I'm back after 4 months and got a lot of topics to talk about because there's been a lot happening recently in the news. So over the course of the next several videos, I'm probably going to make four separate topics that I want to talk about. And for today, I'm going to start with talking about the Illinois Safety Act. Safety Act, I should put in a quotation because from what I read, it sounds like the exact opposite of providing safety to anybody. And it's also being called the Purge Law uh, by a lot of people. So it's really controversial. So I'm going to get into that today. So today I am in the library. Actually, I'm not at home like usual, although you can't really tell because obviously behind me there's like a wall. But I'll turn my screen around so I can show you guys where I'm at. I'm in like a private study room so I can have some quiet while I'm doing this video. So I'm going to get into this. Now I did some research prior to doing this video, as I do with most of my topics, and I found some interesting things. Now, the controversial part of this Safety Act that people are protesting against is that they're saying it abolishes the cash bail system in Illinois, which it does. But there are other components to this bill that I've read in this article that I'm also going to get into in this video. So right now I'm on the ICJIA website, and the ICJIA, that stands for the Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority. And so they've got a lot of good information about this Safety Act. And I'm just going to get into the introduction of it. So according to this website, signed into law by Governor J.B. Pritzker on January 22nd, 2021, the Illinois Safety, Accountability, Fairness, and Equity Today, or the Safety Act, implements sweeping reform impacting many aspects of the criminal justice system, including pre-arrest diversion, policing, pretrial, sentencing, and corrections. Many provisions of the Act take effect July 1st, 2021. So that was about a little over a year ago. This Act has already been in place. All right. Now I'm going to get into the other components that I just talked about. The policing, the sentencing, the corrections. Well, not all of them, obviously. This is a lot to unpack. But just for the sake of this video, I'm going to focus mainly on the controversial aspect of this act, and that's the abolishing the cash bail. So when I first heard of this, what popped up in my head is that cash bail that's mentioned in the U.S. Constitution, specifically the Eighth Amendment, and I looked more into this because I didn't, exactly remember what the Eighth Amendment said, but it prohibits excessive cash bail or excessive bail. So it means the judge can't order the defendant they can't order a high amount of bail, that an unreasonably high amount of bail. And that's most likely because most defendants in this country cannot afford bail in the first place. So I guess that's to keep, the courts from overstepping their bounds and just I don't know, like a system of checks and balances, you could say. But anyways, that's what the Eighth Amendment states: no excessive cash bail. And so now what Illinois is doing, they're eliminating the cash bail system altogether. And what cash bail essentially does is it provides us an incentive for the defendant to come back to their court date. And so if they don't, then they can be arrested and then they have to stay in jail until their next court date. And the judge can like set their bail amount to whatever is they feel is necessary or reasonable. And they can't be released until they pay it out, until they pay their, or somebody else pays on their behalf. So basically, yeah, it ensures that the defendant comes back to court. That's why we have cash bail. And so if it's eliminated altogether, I don't know, I just believe that's a constitutional issue. I mean, if I had any say over it, I would take this up with the Supreme Court, honestly, because I really believe this is a constitutional issue. And I just believe it's really unnecessary because I'm not exactly sure if this is for like all criminals or like all defendants. If it's just cash bail is just eliminated for like everybody or just like certain offenses. But obviously, a lot of people have an issue with it because they're arguing that this allows violent offenders to be out on the streets. And of course, that's already been happening for the past several years because we have thousands of people, thousands of violent offenders already being released on electronic monitoring, and that still hasn't been resolved. And now we've got this Safety Act, and I don't know, it might be too early to say if it's working or not working. I predict it's not going to work. So I guess time will tell. But so yeah, back to this Eighth Amendment. Yeah, this is just it's just see, it just seems like Illinois, they just keep passing these bills that protect and defend the criminal more than the victim. That seems to be what this Safety Act is doing too, because they keep coming up with more reasons to keep people out of jail instead of like if you break the law, then punishment and consequence. But they're trying to, I mean, for any offense, misdemeanors, felonies, violent offenses, like if you break the law, then you need to go to jail or prison, whatever the case may be. But they keep like passing these laws that are just making the already high crime rate in this city and in this state worse by just protecting the criminal more than the victim. And so yeah. All right, I'm going to go back to the other components in a few minutes. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, and another thing I wanted to bring up, this could also pose a problem because if the defendant isn't required, if the judge isn't required to, if there's no bail set, and let's say the person committed a misdemeanor, or since I'm not sure if this applies to misdemeanors or violent offenders, if this applied to like a violent offender, they don't like have to pay bail to get out of jail, then they could just, go until their court date, and there's nothing ensuring that they'll coming back to the court. And any time in between they're released and going back to court, those free hours or minutes or days um, will enable them to commit even more crimes if they want to, maybe even more serious crimes. And so I believe this is just encouraging criminals to just, or further emboldening criminals in this city and state to just like, they feel like they can get away with their crimes because just really seems like Illinois and Prisker and Lightfoot and the courts are just not taking crime seriously and just allowing the criminals to just do what they want with not being punished very little to not being punished at all. So what else do we have? This could also like create a pattern where if criminals keep feeling like they can commit the crimes that they commit with little to no punishment, then next time it won't just be a misdemeanor. That they could upgrade to more like serious crimes like armed robbery, rape, murder, um, and I believe abolishing cash bail can do that, and just like releasing people on violent offenders on electronic monitoring, just like any other law that's passed that further emboldens the criminal and by not punishing them uh, enough for their crimes, which is called recidivism. Forgot to mention that. I'm going back to my criminal justice classes I took a few years ago, and if you're released and you you're a habitual offender, like you keep reoffending, I believe that's called recidivism. So I believe that can increase risk, like what is it? What's the name of the word? Increase recidivism. Um, so yeah, we don't need to add any more laws. We need to change the broken ones that are already in place, the ones that already exist, and we can start by changing, uh, putting these thousands of violent offenders that are on electronic monitoring right now back in prison, and this safety act definitely needs to be thrown out. And I understand why people are calling it the purge law because I mean, look what's been happening over these past years in Chicago and all over Illinois. So I understand why it's called the purge law. And right now, they are there's a petition going out, and from my understanding, thousands have already signed it. I'm assuming it's to like get rid of this act. So I might sign it too. Like if I see it anywhere, I don't have a problem with that. Hopefully it'll do some good. Um, it might not because just like the people are complaining now, the people have always been complaining, the victims and other citizens who are just like witnessing these crimes, and everybody keeps saying that um, the judge needs to take it more seriously. The um, Kim Fox needs to take it more seriously. Lightfoot, Pritzker, and these are all the people who are just like making everything, who are just like putting these laws into place and making crime worse and making everything worse. So they've shown us that they really don't care what we have to say. And So I just don't have a lot of hope that this petition will do any good. But like I said, I hope it does. Uh, what else? Yeah, that's pretty much it. Now I'm going to go to the other components just real quickly since I covered the abolishing cash bail. Now, from what I've read, I'm reading some of the notes from this website. From what I've read, like this act, like I said, it seems to be like protecting the criminal more than the victim. And I've read some things like it talked about compensations for crime victims, but there was just like very little mentioned about that. Most of it is just like trying to control the police again, trying to like restrict their authority, restrict their powers. Um, and yeah, there's just very little said about, you know, uh, adding more punishments or, well, not adding more punishments, but let's see. What else do we have? Policing highlights. Uh, okay, let's just go with this use of force. So, in the area of use of force, the Act offers new standards for when police use force, requires officers to provide aid after using force, requires officers to intervene if other officers are unauthorized or excessive force. Okay. Prohibits police access to any military equipment surplus program or purchasing specific types of equipment. What's that have to do with anything that's going on right now? It doesn't. Requires publishing of any purchase request or receipt of equipment through any military purchasing program. It's ridiculous things like this that like are irrelevant to just everything, all the crime that's going on. So what does this have anything to do? What does like the police using military stuff have anything to do with what's going on right now? Expands use of and changes guidelines and requirements for body worn cameras and who may access or view or delete footage. Uh, sorry, just let's see what else is in this act that doesn't make any sense. Okay, so the pretrial highlights of the Safety Act. Again, that's the abolishing the cash bail. Let me go to the victims. What they say about the victims. Because most of this is just, in my opinion, not important. Oh, here's something. Here's something else. Correctional highlights allow for certain movements for those on electronic monitoring and home detention. So again, like, why are we allowing more movement? We should be restricting movement. I mean, it depends on what they're on electronic monitoring for. If they're, and it's not even specifying here, but like we have, like I said, thousands of violent offenders on electronic monitoring is saying allow for certain movements. No, we should be restricting certain movements. We shouldn't be giving more leeway to criminals. increases eligibility for individuals who are sentenced for certain drug offenses to enter diversion or probation programs. Okay, I thought I saw a section on here that talked about the victims. Okay, I can't find it. I don't want to take up too much more time in this video. But as I said earlier, it was basically talking about like victim compensation. But like there was just a small section about that, and yeah. So that's all I have, at least for this topic. Like I said, I have three other topics, important topics that I want to talk about that's been happening recently. So I'm going to end it here and come back in the next video.